time for our Law and You segment, sponsored by the Law Office of Gig and Jan Cola, right down the street here in Altoona. Join with us now, we have attorney Michael Gig. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yes, all right. You and your partner, Chris, you practice a variety of different types of law. Tell us what you guys cover.
Yeah, so I handle most of our estate matters, estate planning, handling estates after someone would pass, and real estate matters. Chris does most of our personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security.
Yeah, you handle all those cases. Twice a week you guys come on the show here and you're able to answer legal questions that people have, so you can submit those here on the show and they will answer them right here. Today though, we wanted to tackle, because you do handle and obviously deal with estate planning, that kind of thing, what the timeline looks like, because maybe some people don't exactly understand the process of what that looks like when you're handling somebody's estate.
Yeah, so this is a common question people come to when they come to my office first when someone passes away. And they get scared because they say, oh, I had a friend who, you know, they handled their mother's estate. It took 5 or 6 years. You know, is that going to take this long? Why does it take that long? So typically, you know, it depends, like everything. But typically it could take, you know, up to maybe a year if everything goes smoothly. So first of all, you know, you come into my office, we go over, if there's a will, we go over the will. But the biggest thing is to see what the assets are, to see what the actual estate assets are, what we're dealing with. That's mainly done in our first consultation. And then, you know, if there's, well, regardless of whether there's a will or not, we have to get the executor or the administrator sworn in. That can take maybe a couple days to get that scheduled, maybe a week, depending if they live here or out of town. But get you sworn in, have the estate opened. And then we, as the attorney for the estate, we have to advertise it. So we advertise if it's around here in the Altoona Mirror,
right.
And then there's a Blair County Legal Bulletin. That's for anyone with claims against the estate, whether it's a credit card company, any banks, anybody that the decedent may be owed money to, they will file claims against the estate. And then we're kind of waiting around for those claims to come in. And the first thing I tell the executor to do is, if there is cash, if the person had bank accounts or something, you want to get those closed and open an estate account, like an estate checking account.
Okay.
And that's where any of the money from the deceased person that would go into that account, and that's what you would pay any bills out of. That can take several months. Ultimately, you have to file what's called an inheritance tax return, and that's for the Pennsylvania inheritance tax. That's filed with the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. We file it like in Blair County here, you file that at the Register of Wills. That has to be filed within 9 months of the person's date of death.
Okay.
And the tax has to be paid. If the tax is not paid within that 9 months, each day thereafter, there's interest charged, okay? So if we can, if there's money to pay it, we want to pay it by then. So that's a 9-month period. But then the time period where there's a little bit of a lull in the estate administration is, once you file that inheritance tax return, Department of Revenue has to review it. That can take 5 to 6 months sometimes, okay? So there is a time period where you might be sitting around, not much is happening, and it takes them that long to approve it, okay? Once the Department of Revenue approves it, then we can file an accounting that shows where all the money went in the estate to pay certain debts, to pay certain other bills. That accounting is usually filed at the courthouse, and then it's sent out to all the beneficiaries. And they have a chance to review that. If they have any questions, they can contact our office. Sometimes, you know, if it's contentious, they've gotten their own attorney who gets involved to challenge some things. Ultimately, if that accounting is approved, then the money is distributed, or property is distributed, and the estate's closed. So again, a lot of times why it takes a year or so is you're kind of sitting there waiting for the state to approve the inheritance tax return. But yeah, we've had estates that can last 7, 8 years for a variety of reasons.
Goodness.
But yeah, I'd say anywhere between 1 to 2 years is a standard time.
Yeah, and is there anything you can do to sort of make that process easier if this were to happen, you know, getting anything?
I think what you can do to help your family is maybe if you have a list, you know, some people, if they have an illness or something, and I've had this, you know, they might have a terminal illness or something.
Yeah.
They've actually laid out, here's where my bank accounts are, here's my life insurance. They might have a safe deposit box where they put those things in. Some people plan for that. A lot of people don't,
Yeah.
though. And I tell people there's no database that you go to see where all these assets are. It kind of becomes a scavenger hunt in a way. You have to go through the person's house, go through their belongings, see what statements are there. So, you know, that's why it can be a tall task, but you do want to have an attorney help you through it, because it can be a tall task for a lot of people and overwhelming. So, yeah, but it depends. The timeline can depend.
Okay, yeah, good stuff to know, of course. Don't be expecting a few weeks here.
No,
I'm sure people call you expecting some sort of progress, and
yes, it's not a couple weeks or even a couple months.
Right.
Yeah, it takes some time to do it the correct way.
Yeah, and of course, people can call your office and talk to you guys, contact you that way. You guys provide a consultation, and you kind of go from there.
Sure, yeah, you can call our office at 946-1606 or through our website at gig-law.com.
All right.